Sure hope I'm alive. All right, let's get that worked out. And what if you threw a webcast and nobody came? Good question, right? I should share this thing on Twitter. Words that feel horrible coming out of my face. All right, and we'll see. Oh, we have a person. Hello, a person. Well, I also have a truck out front. The truck is my new best friend, I guess. And I have a bunch of wine openers on my desk. You know, it's funny, these wine openers are functionally the same. There is absolutely no difference between any of these wine openers, these corkscrews. They are identical in every single way, right from the backs, the fronts, but they just have slightly different branding on them, which I find very funny. So I got two Houdinis and a word I can't read because it's in too fancy of a script. And everything about them is completely the same. And it reminds me a bit of like DMV queries in SQL Server, where they can be wrong. You can totally write a wrong query, but when you write the right query, it's going to look exactly the same as everyone else's right query. Like, you could find ways to mess with it, like do something a little bit differently, but it's all be the same DMVs and columns and everything else. And it's very strange to think about that everyone has the exact same set of tools to work with, and everyone has the exact same set of tools to look at, but people get very territorial about their very special DMV or diagnostic queries, and you would act like they invented the thing, but they didn't. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there are approximately 3 of you here. One of you's got to say something. One of you's got to ask a question. Like 3 people in a room. One of you has a question about SQL Server. Maybe. What's up, Arthur Daniels? Great post today about the memory grant thing. Enjoyed that. Something kind of funny that you'll notice with Stack Overflow is when you're writing queries against it, stuff against like the users table that involves about me, or the post table that involves a few of the columns, or like the comments table that involves the text column, the text of the comment. The optimizer is quite biased against parallel plans when you involve those columns. I noticed that like the even on 2010, like the parallel version of the plan that you were looking at was quite a bit more expensive than the serial version. But I'll send you over a funny demo query specifically for the comments table, where if you use a creation date column, plan goes parallel, everything's fine. But if you use the comment text column, it stays serial and everything sucks. It's kind of amusing. Yes. Indeed. Indeed. We should all these things. Optimizer is quite a strange beast. Use the maxed up one. Oh yeah, you use SAP, right? Is it Business One that you use mostly, or something else? There's a funny delay on these things. 7 of you. God bless. Does one of 7 people have a question? I'm busy growing out my various hairs. Since you're here, you've probably all seen the charity thing that I'm doing, where if I hit a certain dollar amount, I'll deliver my regular session at Bits. Not the full pre-con. I'm not going to dress like Freddie Mercury for 8 hours. I don't think Freddie Mercury even dressed like Freddie Mercury for 8 hours. But if I'll do the 1 hour session dressed just in Freddie Mercury's get up from the Live Aid concert. And so I'm trying to grow out the mustache and the hair so I can look more Freddie-ish when I do that. I'm going all for it. I'm not gonna get skinny though. I don't think I have it. I don't think I have the capability to get that skinny. But I tried once. It didn't go well. I got very dizzy all the time. No fake teeth. No, my regular teeth are weird enough. You put fake teeth in here, I don't know what would happen. They're all over the place. You know what's funny is I actually got my wisdom teeth were perfectly fine. Like they weren't impacted. Everything was normal with my wisdom teeth, but it was decided that they should get pulled out. And everyone who said that, if you take your wisdom teeth out, it'll help your like regular teeth straighten out. And I did that when I was 19, and here I am now. I think like I'm 219s in age, and my teeth haven't moved an inch, or not even like at all. An inch would be huge. But like my teeth did not change one bit. So everyone lied to me. My teeth did not like magically decompress in my gums. Arthur has an interesting question. Have you ever seen an execution plan in cache with just a select operator and 0 estimated cost? If it helps a query return 0 rows, when I run the query manually, I get a clustered index seek. So that can happen. Let's see. What's the best way to and it's just a select query. It's like it's not wrapped in like an if exists or like in any sort of if logic or branching logic. Anyway, so if you run the query manually, you might be getting a trivial plan, in which case you will get what do you call it there, an index seek. But if you get a non-trivial plan, yeah. So if the cache trivial plan, you might be getting a constant scan in there, which might be weird. I don't know though. If you want to show me privately what you mean, I'd be happy to take a better look at it. But I'm a little rusty on that. Lee asks, any gotchas with backup encryption? We're copying backups to AWS now, and I'd like to ensure no one can restore it but us. No real gotchas. The only real gotchas with backups right now are around TDE. So if you're just using like built-in backup encryption and not using TDE and then taking the backups. So like with TDE, it gets kind of funky because on versions of SQL older than 2016, you would get this kind of weird thing where all of a sudden you couldn't compress your backups when TDE was enabled. And then, your backups were huge. But after SQL Server 2016 introduced encryption introduced backup compression for TDE enabled databases, but there's been all sorts of crazy bugs. Can I still restore a backup of prod to dev without a bunch of hoops to jump through? Well, initially you'll have some hoops, like you'll have to make sure that they have the certificate and all that other stuff on the dev server. But after that, it's pretty easy to do. And all that stuff is built into Ola's scripts. So, or at least on the backup side. Of course, Ola doesn't write a restore script. Poor Ola. Yeah, the constant scan is a weird thing. So, what my guess would be that sometimes in prod, the query is non-trivial and it might bail out for some reason. Like there might be some contradiction detection. So I don't know. Lee says he's using DBA tools to generate restore scripts to restore to dev. I've never actually used them for that. I still don't have a real job where I would have to do backups and restores, but hopefully I'll avoid that. But yeah, if they have everything built in, then I wouldn't distrust it. The DBA tools folks are pretty good. Pretty smart folks, pretty good at PowerShell. Much better at PowerShell than I'll ever be, I hope. If anyone wants me to learn PowerShell, I don't know what I'll do. Let's go cry in a corner somewhere. That's what I do best anyway. Cry in a corner. Very goth. All right. Any other questions? Any other people want to know about a thing? There are 10 of you here now. This many. And if no one asks me anything, I'm gonna go back to doodling. Become quite a doodler the last few weeks. Maybe next week I'll show you some of my doodles. I recorded a video earlier too. Joe asks, "Is this going to be a regular thing like office hours used to be?" Yeah, as long as I can keep it up. It's just me, and so there's like no coverage. So if the day ever comes when I'm booked with a client Friday at noon, then I won't be able to do it. But I think as long as I can, I'll do it. I'll make it regular. Or maybe I'll do it on a different day. Maybe I just tried Fridays because when we did office hours on Wednesdays, people would always be like, it's Wednesday at noon. I can't do anything. It's like Fridays at noon, people are a little bit more relaxed at work, I think, hopefully. So I just decided to do Fridays because they seemed like a pretty reasonable day. Have you used the failover detection utility from the Tiger team? No, it's not that I don't think it's cool. I think it's really cool, and I love that the Microsoft is building tools like this. It's just been so long since I've even had an AG demo environment with my VMs to play with that stuff. It's just not my main focus. It's just not what I'm particularly interested in with SQL Server. It looks great though. I know a few people, who have used it, who do have production AG stuff, and they are pretty psyched on it. Arthur asks, on OLTP systems, are you a fan of compression? If IO is an issue, sure. Yes, if you're in a situation with OLTP where you have trouble, or even if you have a really big OLTP system, if you have trouble either keeping all your data if you have a ton of data, or if when you read data from disk, it's not as fast as you'd like it to be. The compression can certainly help there, as long as you're not terribly CPU bound. It's pretty neat. Also, it's one of those things where you have to be really careful that you're actually getting a compression benefit from things. B, that the compression isn't messing with your inserts, updates, and deletes. And C, that when it's not causing any harmful CPU overhead. It totally has a good place with OLTP. I'm not against it by any means, but there are some boxes that you have to check before you go and implement it. The other thing that kind of stinks about compression is that there's no way to set it at the table level or database level or anything like that. So people can go and create a new index and with no compression, and then you're just kind of stuck. If you want to change it, you have to rebuild the index. But then again, that's one of the reasons that I would support rebuilding an index, is if you wanted to add compression. Lee says, I recently compressed a database, and the next day, one of our nightly SSIS packages to that database suddenly jumped 5 minutes in duration with a lot more logical reads. Interesting. I wonder did you happen to capture what was different about it? I mean, like I get that you compressed the database and that was different, but I wonder what was different about the process, or like what the process did differently in some way. Be interesting. Darren says he always has a CPU worry with compression. Well, no, of course nothing changed in the SSIS, but like the SSIS package does stuff in SQL Server, and sometimes those things have execution plans, or they have things that go differently. Like so for an example, there are these funny things called DML request sorts when you modify data, and sometimes those DML request sorts can add exactly what they sound like, a gigantic sort to a query plan. And sometimes I would guess that if you had to compress data, loading data in a sorted pattern would help. So that if you had an insert that was at one point not doing the DML request sort, and then after you did the compression it was, that might be the clue. As far as like the CPU worry goes, very few times do I see a system that is CPU constrained in a way that like CPUs are pegged. So like I don't see a lot of people whose systems are running OLTP and they're at like 99%, which is where I'd be worried about compression. Most people, like when people have CPU issues on a SQL server, mostly what I see is like they're running out of worker thread stuff where they're hitting thread pool weights, and compression won't affect that. Compression will affect like if you have CPUs that are running hot, then they're going to run a little bit hotter with compression, not like a ton. Aaron says you should have seen your system a couple months ago. Could take a look now. Want to pay me? The compile rate is super high in our internal apps. Like how much? When you say compile rate, do you mean like queries compiling, or do you mean like how long they have, like how long it takes them to compile, or how frequently they compile? There's a lot of questions they have. So many questions. So many big questions. Percent compiled to batches. Ooh, and I wonder what changed. Because obviously a lot of compilations is never a good thing. Did you introduce like some weird dynamic SQL or some temp tables, or I don't know. I'll tell you one of the funniest reasons that I ever saw for a high compile rate was I forget what the application was. I want to say it was like ASP.NET, but all of the queries that went in, they would like be this like initial query that would run that would like test to see if the query was valid. So it would come in and it would be like set FMT only on, or like set browse table on or whatever. And then it would run a query that would hit like 70 million rows in a table. And then it would like change the settings back. And all of these queries are coming in and they were just compiling every single time, because the session would start, it would run those set options, and it would cause a compilation. It was really funny to see. I was like, why would you do that? Silly. Can you fix parameter sniffing with option recompile? So that doesn't actually fix parameter sniffing. What that does is it disables parameter sniffing. And while it is, technically a fix, sometimes there are underlying plan quality issues that need to be addressed, because what option recompile does is it assumes that the query plan you get when SQL Server can make a good guess is a good plan, and I don't buy that a lot of the time. I think a lot of the time when people are like, oh, if I option recompile, it fixed the problem, but it does. There may still be these weird underlying things that you have to deal with. Oh, well, it showed up in chat, so I figured I'd talk about it. Sorry, I didn't mean that you weren't funny. I just figured I'd talk about option recompile. It's not like I have a lot of other stuff to talk about. I'm pretty boring. I ordered a new vacuum cleaner. It was funny, like my wife had knocked over this like pink princess unicorn snow globe that my daughter has. And it just like, it was like shattered glass and plaster and whatever the liquid inside of a snow globe is everywhere. And she used our nice vacuum monster, Dyson monster thing to vacuum it up. And apparently you shouldn't vacuum water with a non-shop vac, because now, like, anytime you put one of the attachment heads in, it just starts spinning even if you're not vacuuming. So there's a short in there somewhere. So I ordered a new vacuum this morning. Hopefully that shows up before the floors are covered in disgustingness. Arthur asked away, always turn on Query Store in SQL Server 2016 plus. No. There is some observer overhead to it, and while I think it's a very valuable tool, and especially if I'll put it like this: if you're going to use it, then you should turn it on and see if there's no unacceptable performance decrease with Query Store. I think it's a really cool thing to be able to use to track query performance, especially over time, because the plan cache is such hot garbage at keeping things in it. So I would say that I would like to see it turned on more, and I would like to see the various weird bugs around it fixed. And I would also like to see some more options about where the data is stored with Query Store. I think that'd be nice. But I'd say generally, if you're going to use it and there's no unacceptable performance overhead, to turn it on. One of my last great posts over on Brent's site was about the cruel defaults that Query Store is turned on with. So like there are collection modes where they define the types of queries that will end up getting collected by Query Store. And by default, it goes to all. And all captures, and since this is my channel, I get to curse, all captures some real bullshit. All will capture every single like system query and all this dumb stuff that goes on in the background that who cares. If you use the collection mode auto, that like queries have to meet some certain thresholds. They're not documented, so I don't know what they are, but they have to meet certain thresholds before they get collected in Query Store, either in like compile time or like how if like the query took a while to run or something like that. So they're like that. Turning on auto makes the overhead a little bit less tough, but it can still be there. And Arthur was helpful enough to post the link for us. Thank you, Arthur. You're my number one junior office hours DBA. I guess. I wish I had a better title for you. Darren says he has an odd question. We have a data mart where they rebuild all the data. Databases are in simple recovery model. It seems odd to have no maintenance at all, though. Any thoughts? No, that's like the perfect time to not have any maintenance. If you're just blowing everything away and loading it back in every night, who cares? It's like a DBA's dream to not have to care about that sort of thing. I wouldn't do any maintenance on that. I mean, there's almost no point in backing it up. There's no point in doing index maintenance on it. I mean, like I can't even think of a good reason to run CheckDB there. I guess CheckDB would be okay. Like if you wanted to run that before you loaded data, just to see if like any system tables were corrupt, that might be a good idea. But I can't think of a good. Yeah, it's like I mean, if it's just gonna get like you're taking a backup of something that's gonna be gone anyway, right? Out the door with you. See, what other maintenance is there? I wouldn't update. I wouldn't update stats because I'm pretty sure that like if you like truncate or drop tables and create tables and reload everything, I wouldn't even the stats would update there. I mean, I guess if you needed better statistics than what the automatic stats update threshold is, then there might be a use case for updating stats there at a higher sampling. Oh, they do stat. Oh, all right. We're on the same page. Look at that. Good job. Whoever designed that is now a full-fledged SQL Server consultant. They should. I don't know. I don't have any certifications. I'm sorry. If they did, if I did, I would say that they are honorarily certified. But I've got none. I'm too dumb to pass a test. See, Lee says I have a two node AG on standard edition with 5 AGs because I have to use basic availability groups. Any reasons not to migrate this one AG to enterprise? If I do make I'd say cost is the primary thing. Like how many? So once you go from standard to enterprise, your cost jumps up pretty significantly. It's a $5,000 per core difference. If you do migrate, any suggested method? Well, if you're migrating to if you're on Windows Server 2016, I think you can make it a bit more seamless. But I think I know with AGs there's some weird stuff on the Windows Server level needing to match, and then the SQL Server level needing to match. There's weird stuff involved there. Oh, if you already have it paid for, then yeah, I'd probably move. If you need to move to like a net new environment, I would use log shipping or something. I wouldn't use mirroring in this case because you're going from standard to enterprise, and you already have an AG set up, so that would be rather awkward to try and implement. So I would say to just, if you wanted to use log shipping and just get your current databases moved over to whatever new VM hardware, fake hardware, whatever virtual hardware you were going to set up, then that's probably how I'd move things, just to make the transition a bit more seamless. And that's assuming that you couldn't set up another VM to get the AG also synchronizing to, and then fail over to that, and then fail over to whatever's next, and then destroy the old environment. Yeah, that's tough. So Lee says he's trying to simplify things so I don't have so many AGs to manage and check, like when we reboot for OS. Yeah, that's a bummer. That's one of the reasons why I asked the question again. Man, all my solid gold material is still on Brent's site. But I had a post over there recently about have AGs gotten any easier, and I think when it comes to stuff like patching and so, and even something like just doing checking out indexes in an AG, right? So, you have the stuff on the primary and you check index metrics there, and you can see that I have a bunch of unused indexes, but they get used on a secondary if you're offloading reads. So yeah, there's still a lot of stuff that's tough about AGs, and patching is certainly one of those very perilous things, because with AGs, in particular, there are a ton of patches. I mean, there are a ton of fixes in each patch, specifically for AG stuff, and AG patches have been known to break stuff too. So it's you're very perilous. It's whatever you get, whatever you have for your AGs, make sure that when you do those patches, you're testing them in a lower environment first, because boy howdy, if one of those patches breaks something, you have to uninstall a patch. Uninstalling a patch is one of my least favorite things in the world, because I always forget the best way to. I know there's a few ways to do it, and there's one of them that's the best way to do it, and I always forget which one it is. Yeah, Darren mentions you might be able to do a rolling upgrade. If you can do a rolling upgrade, great. If you're on Windows Server 2012 or something, though, I don't think you can't do a rolling upgrade if you're moving to Windows Server 16 or 19 down the line. So it would have to be at least 2016. Just fun. Nothing but a good time with those AGs. Who's emailing me? No, I'm not talking to you. Don't worry, it wasn't Brent. Let's see. All right. Anyone else? Weird questions? The audience has dwindled down to 6 now. I feel bad. I bored someone. I must have made someone sleepy. All right. Well, if no one has any other questions, I'm gonna unlive this thing. Or try to figure out how. Oh, there's a big red button that says end stream. All right. I'm gonna de-live myself and go. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna practice singing, I guess. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining me. I had a good time. I'll see you next week, I hope. God willing. And yeah, thanks, Lee. Yes, I'll see you next week. And go have fun this weekend. Do stuff I wouldn't do. Yes, you have a good weekend too, Joe. All right, everyone. Take care. Bye.